Well, Venezuela's government accuses the United States of piracy and escalating aggression after seizing President Nicolas Maduro's plane. The US says the jet was acquired in violation of sanctions, among other criminal activity. CNN's Oren Lieberman has details.
This jet was in the Dominican Republic for maintenance when U.S. authorities seized it. FBI agents flew it from the Dominican Republic to Florida. There you can see video obtained exclusively by CNN as it landed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and was taxiing around there. It's not quite the 747 jumbo jet that the U.S. uses as Air Force One, but it is, according to two U.S. officials, Venezuela's version of Air Force One, used by President Nicolas Maduro to fly around to meetings and to other events there. According to Garland, it was purchased for some $13 million by a shell company before it was illegally flown out of the country. Now, the U.S. and Venezuela have long had a frosty relationship that's only gotten worse, perhaps even almost outright hostile since the July presidential election, the U.S. not recognizing the claimed results of that election. According to Maduro's own regime, he won with some 51% of the vote. The U.S. not recognizing that as a free and fair election. In fact, many other countries not recognizing it as well. It is because of the results or claimed results of that election that the U.S. reimposed sanctions on Venezuela's oil and gas industries. Venezuela said the seizure of that jet was, quote, piracy. Oren Lieberman, CNN in Washington.
For more now, we're joined by Brett Bruen, president of the Global Situation Room, a private consulting firm focusing on crisis management and international security. Before that, he held senior positions on the National Security Council and at the U.S. State Department. Brett, it's good to see you.
Good to be with you, John.
Okay, so here's part of a statement from the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland on the seizure of Maduro's plane. The Justice Department seized an aircraft we allege was illegally purchased for $13 million for use by Nicolas Maduro and his cronies. The Justice Department goes on to say the plane was illegally exported in April of 2023 from the United States to Venezuela via the Caribbean. So what, this is all just about violation of U.S. sanctions? This wasn't done to send a message to Maduro to, hit him where it really hurts, or was it a bit of both?
Well, it's all about the timing. And quite frankly, the Biden administration has been looking for ways, symbolic as well as some significant ways, that they can send a message to Caracas. And by taking Maduro's plane, I think they have achieved a small modicum of that message. To say, symbolically, but also, for a head of state not to be able to fly around in their own private jet with all of the, John, I was looking at some of the features this jet has earlier on today. It's going to be a little bit less comfortable for Maduro on his next flight abroad.
Yeah, what sort of plane was this? I know it's a luxury plane, but what were the features?
Well, look, it's got a private bedroom. It has nicely upholstered seats and nicely finished cabin. So his trips around Latin America were a little bit more comfortable than they had been prior to the $13 million purchase of this plane. At the same time, though, look, I think we're seeing, and just within the last few hours, there have been some reports that the U.S. plans to sanction Venezuelan election officials that Maduro had used in order to try and steal these elections. So they are going to take other steps. The real question here is, will it amount to more than a hill of beans, or will it simply just be a whole lot of showmanship, as you said, in the past, that hasn't swayed the Venezuelan leaders very much?
Well, we also have this statement from the U.S. Commerce Department. Let this seizure send a clear message. Aircraft illegally acquired from the United States for the benefit of sanctioned Venezuelan officials cannot just fly off into the sunset. Meantime, in Venezuela, a government statement described the seizure of the plane as piracy, saying the U.S. illegally seized an aircraft that is being used by the President of the Republic. They actually referred to seizing it again, another aircraft. This is an example of the supposed rules-based order, which, disregarding international law, seeks to establish the law of the strongest. Okay. So just how difficult is it to seize a plane used by a head of state? And also, would you expect reprisals, perhaps, from the Maduro government?
Well, let's start with, this is not unprecedented. The U.S. has actually seized about 70 Venezuelan planes, most of them associated with PDVSA, the state oil company. They even, just within the last year, seized a plane in Argentina. So this is a common practice. But as you said, seizing the plane of a head of state is a stronger step. It sends a message to not only to Venezuelan leaders, but quite frankly, to leaders around the world, those ill-gotten gains and those ill-gotten planes are going to wind up in our hands if, in fact, you cross the United States, and especially as Maduro has, by trying to just blatantly steal another term in office.
And speaking of which, all of this does come a month after Maduro declared himself winner of that much disputed election. And ever since, according to the US State Department, Maduro has ratcheted up repression through politically targeted threats, unjust and indiscriminate detentions, and censorship in a desperate attempt to hold on to power by force. Maduro's actions have exacerbated the Venezuelan crisis and left him increasingly isolated from the international community. Well, even more so now without his plane. On the surface, at least, these elections seem to be playing out as the previous elections. Maduro claims victory on a rigged vote. The opposition cries foul, protests erupt, people get killed. Is it different? Will it be any different this time?
John, I wish I could answer that. My cynical side says no. We're going to see a lot of the steps that we have seen in the past. The U.S., perhaps Europe in some respects, will go through all of these motions, but it isn't clear that there is a plan, a strategy that they can execute to effectively try and apply pressure, to create more deterrence on Maduro just bulldozing ahead, because let's face it, he's already pretty isolated. There was an effort led by Lula da Silva, the head of state in Brazil, to try to negotiate some exit for Maduro that hasn't, quite frankly, yielded very much. It did yield a proposal that we'd have a do-over, but I don't think there really are do-overs in democracy, so we're left without a great path forward for the West.
Yeah. Brett, great to have you with us. Really appreciate the insight and the analysis as well. Good to see you.
Sure thing.